Hello and welcome to the Brick News, the weekly show on all things brick building, where we talk about set updates and announcements from all the major brands, mocks of the week, and usually reading recommendations as well. Unfortunately, this week we have none. Anyway, information is presented as always by setdb.org, the best source for set information on the internet, and we are actually beyond 21,000 sets nowadays. So that was a recent milestone, I think last week, if I recall correctly, but we're already at 21,057, so things are going fast out there. So let's get started and dig in, and as always we will go through the brands in alphabetical order. So we will start with BlueBrixx, the brand over here from Germany actually, and with that we are starting with the car transport truck announced by BlueBrixx, the 108632. So those of you from North America, this may not look that familiar. This is how trucks look over here in Europe, with the flat nose. Anyhow, this car transport has 4 cars on board. Yeah, looks like, I don't know, I guess this is a Porsche, and I guess this is maybe Volkswagen Golf Cabriolet. I'm not really 1% sure. The other two I can't identify. Anyhow, you have 4 cars. These are slightly smaller than the typical Lego Speed Champion is nowadays, more like the original 8-stud format. So my guess is it's a one-seater basically. So like it used to be in the old days, you can only put one minifigure in here. But yes, the truck has space for 4 cars, which of course is not up to scale, but it's close enough, I would say. This thing has 1,695 pieces. It will be roughly 45 centimeters in length. That's slightly below 18 inches, so not a small thing. You may already have some issues with the typical street setup. However, as you could see on this picture here, you can also basically have like a parked position, put it, I don't know, somewhere in between buildings, loading on, or maybe next to a train station. This could also be interesting, right? Like train is offloading the cars and this truck is onboarding, something like that. Anyhow, with that, we're moving on to the BR01, Baureihe 01 in German, that would be. So this is a German locomotive, of course, 108630. The Baureihe 01 is, like I said, a German steam locomotive from the pre-Second World War era, and was built between 1926 and 1938. They made roughly 230 of these bad boys. Maximum speed, 120 kilometers per hour. Don't ask me how many miles that is. I think it's by 1.5, right? Roughly, so maybe like 90 miles? Could this be? Or maybe like 80 miles? I don't know. This thing was not slow, for sure. Anyhow, this is I guess an 8-stud locomotive. I think it's 8 studs. So not a small train, and in fact this locomotive has 1,347 pieces and roughly slightly below 50 centimeters in length. That is roughly 19 inches. So this is not a small locomotive, but yeah, I mean, the name already suggests it's the number one. It's the first of these, let's say, standard locomotives. To get a better understanding, so Germany is not that old, right? So Germany exists like 1876, I think it was founded, and before that it was just a bunch of smaller states. So as a result, each of these countries, like Bavaria for instance, they had their own train organizations, and as a result all of them had different locomotives. So what happened here in the early 20s is that they started to standardize this more and more, and this is why this is the number one, even if it's only 1926, because simply this was part of an effort to standardize locomotives within the German empire. May I say empire? Yeah, I think they had an emperor, so I guess it was an empire. I don't know. Anyhow, with that, we are moving on to Baureihe. In fact, Germany uses this terminology to this day. Of course, it's not. Well, we're a different country nowadays, but still BR is used, 146, so obviously this is much more modern. I think this is actually from French-Canadian production, if I recall. Bombardier, that is, I think, a Canadian company, is not. I may be wrong here. I'm not so deep into trains, to be honest. Anyhow, 108629, and this is, I think, in in German cross-city or inter-regional traffic. This locomotive is used for trains that go up to 160 kilometers per hour. As far as I know, it's an electric locomotive. It has, from BlueBrixx now, 1,448 pieces, and it is an 8-stud wide train as well. So again, pretty large locomotive. What is interesting is that you can remove the interior in a very easy manner. So I'm not sure why you would do that. I mean, maybe it could make it easier to position minifigures on the inside. So this thing is at least a lot closer to minifigure scale than regular 6-stud wide trains like the ones that Lego does, for instance. So this could be a reason, but I think the bigger reason is that they wanted to have this easy removal so you can use the mice to put actual machinery in, i.e. motors, and or maybe even more importantly, like your battery boxes and stuff like that. This is my guess. I'm not really sure why you would do this otherwise. Anyway, we are moving on to the 108631. Again, all of the sets I've just been talking about are announcements, usually because all of these are BlueBrixx specials, or BRixx is the sub-brand of the BlueBrixx special line for trains, so everything train related. Usually it takes roughly 6 months between announcements and actually availability. And that is also the reason, by the way, and I guess those of you who have been following the show, BlueBrixx never gives us any price indication until the set is actually available. So, and like I said, however, they give us the indication usually many, many months before the set is available, which is a bit or let's say, I wouldn't say strange, it's just very, very different at basically what every other brand does. Anyhow, 108631 Railroad Station Accessoires, 433 pieces for, different collection of cards and stuff. So this is clearly designed for, again, European standards. So all of this stuff, of course, is very much influenced by what the German railway organization Deutsche Bahn is using on their train stations. So, but anyhow, this I'm pretty sure is applicable to many other regions of the world as well. And with that, we're moving on to a couple of availabilities now. So first, the clownfish and how do you pronounce this in English? Anemone. I think in German we say anemone, but I have no idea how to pronounce this in English. Anemone. I don't know. It's a thing the clownfish is living in. Let's call it that way. 107708 now available. This thing has 2,600 pieces, and it's gonna cost you over here in Europe at least $100. Keep in mind, as always, I will mention this only once, I promise. In Europe, that includes always value-add tax. We are different here in that regard, for instance, compared to the United States. This fish and living in his house has basically a size. It's basically a 27 by 32 centimeters or 10 by 12.5 inches. And yeah, here you go. I think I've talked about this set before when it was announced. I think it's a pretty beautiful design. I love the plant work, if you will, and the fish itself as well. And I also really love that because it's, the fish is living in his home here, that they covered up the stand of the fish itself pretty remarkably. The only thing is that, especially if you look in the back, that they did not manage using snot or anything like this to make sure that it looks perfect from both sides. So it has like a good side and not so good side, but I think it looks all in all quite amazing. And with that, we're moving on to a municipal multi-purpose vehicle, 108030, now available. So this is, I don't even know if, I guess Daimler is selling these worldwide, but for sure they do in Germany. So this is a Mercedes Unimog. But again, I don't know if they use this terminology outside of Central Europe, but this is basically a Mercedes that Mercedes has been doing like forever, and basically every city in Germany is using these. So, but I guess most of you will be familiar with these as well. So this is the 108030. This is a 1x18 set. So that's not minifigure scale. This is much bigger actually. It has 977 pieces, and it's roughly 12 or 13 by 27 centimeters square, and that's roughly 5 by 10.5 inches, and BlueBrixx is selling this one for $40. And then they have 2 additional kits to kit this one out. So first they have the salt spreader and snowplow snow plow attachment, the 108033. So this is additional $15 if you so desire. 377 pieces, 4 cents a piece, not too shabby. And then they have the forklift attachment, and this is the 108067, which I think is slightly smaller, 309 pieces. It's gonna cost you $13. Then we have available 2 minifigure packs for the Beer Rock Castle. So first we have the Knights or Soldiers pack, whatever you might call it. 8 knights and a horse is included in this pack, and BlueBrixx is selling these for $19. This is actually quite a bargain, especially if you compare this to Lego minifigures. I guess if you buy a knight, like a black knight, for instance, pick a brick, etc., I'm pretty sure you're easily at like €3 at least per minifigure. So having 19 for the entire package, including a horse, I think a horse at Lego is $6 or $7. So I think that is quite a bargain. However, especially the horse, for instance, does not have, in my opinion, the same quality as the Lego horse does. And of course, the minifigures, I think they're pretty good in quality. The question is, do you like them or not, right? I think this is an important question. And then they also have for Beer Rock Castle, or for the Beer Rock Castle line. So let me quickly open this. This is this castle line, basically, we're talking about, more directed at kids, I would say, much simpler than the other castle line around Blaustein Castle that Lego has as well. BlueBrixx has as well, of course. So this is more like for the kids lineup. But of course, you could use this for whatever, whatever is your fancy. And 108036 for sure is the civilians. So again, a horse and 8 minifigures, in this case, civilians. As you can see, legs and skirts, at least most of them, are pad printed as well. Usually everything with these BlueBrixx Pro sets is pad printed. And with that, we're moving on to another building extension of Beer Rock Castle, and this is the Inn. 108034, now available for $50, 4.8 cents a piece. It has 1038 pieces, 4 minifigs. And yeah, I mean, as you can see, like it is the Inn, but because it is the extension, you can see you can attach it, or basically it has a small portion of wall included as well that you can then use to connect. In fact, the entire Beer Rock Castle is highly modular, and basically you can connect all the different pieces, wall sections, they have like a bazillion extensions for this one, and they're always connected in this way. Like you use 2 Technic pins, and basically the wall, if you will, everything is kind of attached to the wall, and so you have all these different elements as part of the Beer Rock Castle line. So as always, both in the podcast show notes as well as in the video description, I will link all the sets I talk about. So if you're in this set, you can also click here on the brand category Beer Rock Castle, and then you get an idea, right? Like the Smiths, or they have dedicated wall expansions, the stables. You can see it's always centered around the wall, the gatehouse, of course, but also the keep and the base castle. All of this is kind of connected to each other. Keep in mind, for the castle itself and for the keep, they have now upgraded the kits, because when they were originally launched, BlueBrixx did not have their own minifigure lineup. So this has changed, of course. So these are like the upgraded versions, but as always with this variation marker here in the detailed section, if there is like a predecessor, a direct predecessor, then I will link this here in here as well. With that, we're moving on to Medieval Town Tavern 107972. So this is a different animal. So this is, I don't really know to which of the many medieval things that BlueBrixx is doing nowadays this is supposed to link to. Because usually either you have Beer Rock Castle, which is the Beer Rock Castle line, I would roughly call it, which is a BlueBrixx Pro, and then you have the Blaustein Castle line, if you will, more like bigger sets, more complex, more mock-like, if you will. And these are usually BlueBrixx specials. However, this thing is different here. This is somehow in between. It's a BlueBrixx Pro set, Medieval Tavern, like I said, and it's a pretty simple design, I would argue. It's not that complex. It doesn't have the strong mock vibe that many of the other BlueBrixx specials have around Blaustein. But yeah, I mean, it's a 2000 piece set, so this is not a small one. I guess it's also not directed at kids, but it is, from a construction point of view, much simpler than any of the other, let's say, in quotes, 18 plus medieval sets that BlueBrixx usually does. Anyhow, this bad boy is going to cost you $100, 4.8 cents a piece, and in size, it is, as you can see here on the centi or on the size side, it is not on regular base plate. It's not 32 by 32 stats. 32 stats is roughly 25.5 centimeters. I don't know how many inches that are, like 10 inches, something like that. But anyhow, this thing is smaller, as you can see, but it's pretty high, 35 centimeters or almost 14 inches. With that, we're moving on to Medieval Carpentry 107901. Actually, a set that I'm currently building. Pretty cool stuff. This is, like I said, this is the other medieval line I was just referring to. And yeah, I mean, so far I had a lot of fun with it, but I'm far from done. What is interesting with this one, there are 2 prints included. So this is the first BlueBrixx special I've ever seen that had prints included. It's only UV direct print, so no pad print. But nevertheless, pretty cool stuff, quite exciting. I mean, it's only 2 prints, not a big deal. And that, in fact, the set doesn't even need it. But nevertheless, it is interesting. And what I really like is the entire color scheme, not using any white, but instead just referring to tan colors, like dark tan and regular tan, which is quite cool. And then you have dark brown, reddish brown, which is like nice color combination, I must say. But yeah, I mean, not so much more to say about, besides it's going to cost you $80, 4 cents a piece. And with that, we're moving on to the Medieval River Harbor that is now also available. This is a much bigger set, 107671. Same designer. Anton is usually doing nowadays most of the medieval sets, or the regular medieval sets, by BlueBrixx. Like I mentioned, the more complex ones. BlueBrixx is asking for $130 for 3,224 pieces, 4 cents a piece. I'm a big fan of this design. I think it looks really beautiful. Not a big fan of the waters, though. From my point of view, I would do this with tiles. I'm not a big fan of this studded look, but I mean, this is an easy fix, right? Just, you know, buy a couple of trans black or trans dark brown, formerly, trans black, formerly trans dark brown. I don't know, whatever Bricklink calls this color nowadays, but you could even use the new trans black tiles, which you can get very easily both from Lego or from BlueBrixx itself. And I think I would do that. But next to that, it's quite an exciting design. I really like the color scheme. What I'm not so sure about at this point in time is like the entire roof construction or the upper floor construction. It's highly modular, but let's see if this really works without like falling apart in your hands when you try to, to use it like this, as you can see on the picture that I currently have on the monitor. However, nevertheless, I really like the design, and I have it actually, it's like 1 meter next to me. And don't ask me how many feet that are. Feet? Is it feet? Do you say feet? Anyhow, it's like 3 feet maybe? No. I don't know. It must be more like 5 or 6, right? What is a meter? I don't know. I don't understand Imperial. However, let's move on to CaDA. And here we have the Azure Storm 51076. Announced and available by CaDA itself, 266 pieces and $35 US. That's a lot, 12.8 cents a piece. And the reason, of course, is that this thing is motorized. So this is one of these smaller cars that have this motor package in there. It's basically, I've built a couple of these in the past. It's basically like a singular block, and it's all in one, like motor and receiver and everything is in a single block. And you just build a couple of bricks around it to make it look good. That is the concept behind that. And then the interesting part is that you have both a regular remote. I mean, I think, to my knowledge, Lego is still the only company, thanks God, that is only including a smartphone app and not a regular remote. So I'm so glad that nobody's copying this thing from Lego, because, still having a regular remote, first of all, is a lot more fun. Second, you can be sure that this thing still works 10 years from now. I mean, if the battery pack still works, of course. While on the other hand, like smartphone apps get, discarded after a certain point in time, can you be sure that Lego will support the app 10 years from now? That is the main thing why I still believe it's great to have regular remotes, like Lego is still doing for the trains, right? But you should have it for Technic and other sets like this as well. Anyhow, CaDA's doing that, but what is cool here is that the smartphone app has like a very simple graphical programming language. So you can teach this car like, okay, go for 3 seconds, you know, forward and then turn right, stuff like that. There's no sensors included or anything like that. So it's pretty simple, but nevertheless, a lot of fun. And in fact, such graphical programming languages are usually very often, at least over here in Germany, what is used in the school system as well. Like when they start getting to write software in, I don't know, 7th or 8th grade, stuff like that, they use graphical programming languages that look pretty much like this one. And, you know, everything is in there. The conditions, loops, all the important constructs of programming languages that are quite common and generally applicable to any programming language is in there. So I think that's a pretty cool thing. Anyhow, let's move on to a Cobi airplane that came out of the blue. I did not see this one coming. The 5867. It's a 1x48 airplane. Looks pretty amazing. I think it's an Italian airplane, as you can see, a Fiat G55 Centauro. I don't have any context on this one, but I will look into this for sure. Over here in Europe, basically Cobi is listing this one for $25, but as you can see, BlueBrixx has this one also included. So I think there's a pretty good chance that you will be able to purchase this also in North America, and maybe other shops will have it as well. Over here in Europe, it's already on pre-order. As always with Cobi, usually it takes a while when it starts or gets released over here in Europe until it is available in North America. And I don't even know what the situation in Asia Pacific region is. Anyhow, I think it's a pretty cool looking set. However, I do admit the pictures also, the rendering looks pretty cool. I don't know, I really like the entire color scheme. It looks pretty amazing. Anyhow, Second World War airplane as far as I can tell, and it's a 1x48. So for all of those of you who collect these, have fun. With that, we are moving on, and here we have from Franhol this Shilotch 9041. We now have a lot more information on this one. In fact, as you can see, there's a ton of information in the ZDB, and the reason is because I've already built it. I was provided by one from Franhol. Actually, my review over here in Germany will release this weekend, but I can already tell you that from my point of view, this is one of the most beautiful sets that Franhol has ever done. It's an amazing winter set, and personally I must say that I really prefer nowadays the Franhol winter collection, if you will, compared to Lego ones. I mean, of course, Lego is more like into Christmas and Santa and stuff like that, but if you simply look at the building itself, I think this is much more to my taste. Of course, it's Franhol, so it has lighting included, looks really beautiful, and as is, thanks God, standard nowadays with Franhol, there is only printed pieces in here. There is no sticker. I've counted 29 prints, but yeah, I don't know. It may be one or two more. I may have missed some. As you can see on some of these pictures, so let's maybe go to this picture. What you can see here is that all the tiles that have a few more colors on them, like more than one, is actually UV direct print, and only the single color, monocolor tiles, if you would printed tiles, are pad printed. So this is quite, a lot of manufacturers are doing this nowadays, because simply, I guess it's much cheaper, because, right, if you have 3 or 4 colors on the tile, then it means you have to print 3-4 times with, you know, pad print. And this, and of course, all of them are very precise, so that all of the different print operations are perfectly synchronized with each other. Sorry, my English is still not what it should be. Anyhow, yeah, and then you have contact written with an E. But I guess, I mean, it's a Chinese company, so that they do all this stuff in English is already quite amazing. And it is a beautiful set. I think the only thing that I didn't like is the back wall, the back side. I mean, if you just put this on the shelf, you are fine. If you want to put this in your like larger winter village diorama, stuff like that, this may be an issue for you. And also, if you don't have power supply directly available and want to use a battery box, basically what you do is you have this huge, ugly black battery box that you are supposed to connect to these 6 studs here on the left. So yeah, they've done in the past, like with the hunting lodge, they did a much better job here. The hunting lodge was beautiful from all 4 sides. This is basically like a 3-side set, if you will. As always, there are some minifigures included, I think 4 of them. All in all, pretty cool set. And then one other mentioning, I guess it's not yet available on Amazon US. I think I have an Amazon UK link. No, I don't. One other thing I want to point out here that I have now also registered with Amazon Canada to have my basically use or provide links from them as well. The main problem is that I cannot provide you with any prices yet. This is like a two-step process by Amazon. I think you need to have a couple of purchases through the link system before they even register you fully. And only after that, I'm able to collect prices from Amazon. So please keep that in mind. So it's as always, highly appreciated if you use my affiliate links, but especially with Amazon Canada, that is especially appreciated because, like I said, I need like 3 or 4 purchases before Amazon registers me and I get prices, which of course is the main thing I want to provide to you. I mean, I love the affiliate link stuff because it finances everything I do over here, but at this point in time, I'm even more interested in providing you with accurate pricing on Amazon. Anyhow, here you go, Funhole. This is still, in my point of view, the best way to purchase from Funhole. Use Amazon because they have like Amazon stock in Amazon Canada, US, UK, European Union. So that is much easier compared to order them from China because you have them right already on site and you can get them within a day or two compared to a week or two. With that, we're moving on to Lego, and here we now have the next Marvel big building, so to say. In this case, the Marvel X-Men, the X-Mansion set 76294. So I think this is the 4th set of its kind, right? They had the Avengers Tower, the Daily Bugle, and the Sanctum Sanctorum, and now they have the X-Mansion 3093. As far as I can tell, compared to the other sets, or at least to the Avengers Tower, this is like not Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm not so deep into X-Men, but I'm pretty sure this is like more from the books. But yeah, it's a huge set for sure, 3,000 pieces, but it also has, I think, a bazillion stickers. So I guess if you like this one or not will, for instance, also depend a lot on do you have a problem with stickers. So personally, this is not for me because I do have a problem with stickers. You know, I want to put my bricks together, but I don't want to glue anything together. So I'm not really into stickers. But if you have no problem with that, then I think this could be a lot of fun. For sure, it is like a big building, but it also has like a bazillion play functions. And because the rooms are so small, they managed to throw in a ton of different scenes. Minifigure lineup looks pretty cool. But like I said, for me, I mean, the current assumption is that you will have more than 40 stickers, which is a bit crazy. Anyhow, Lego is asking for $330. Of course, depending on where you buy this, your mileage may vary, but at the end of the day, it is truly a ton of stickers. This is my biggest issue for a $330 set. Anyhow, moving on to lots, and here we have a small dog, Corgi 1256. Unfortunately, I don't have a price for you at this point in time. And then there is sheep in the stable. Again, I don't have a price, but I do really like the look and feel of both of them. So if you're interested in that, I do have a link to Amazon UK, but not so much more details. So let's move on to the next thing. Over here in Europe, a lot of Mork sets have been announced. So BlueBrixx is not only a set manufacturer, but also a retailer. And I think they have a pretty strong business relationship with the company that is also behind the Mork brand. This is where very often they break the news on new sets. And here we have, first of all, 2 Easter set. Eastern Bunny Manor 31012 by Mork. They call it a 12-in-1 set. My guess it's more like a 2-in-1 by means you can either build this big diorama, if you will, or you can split it up into 12 smaller pieces. That's my understanding. Is it even 12? No, it's 11. So you have either one or the other 11. I think that is how I would interpret this. But anyhow, if you're into Easter, looking for something for the kids, this may be for you. And then they have the Eastern Farm Party, the 20205. And this time they call it a 3-in-1. And I think in this case, this is true. You can like have 3 different variants of this diorama, and there's even lighting included, which is quite cool. And then they have, which I personally find a bit more exciting, 2 dragons, the Fire Dragons 33022. This is a 1737 piece set. It's a 2-in-1, which basically means the dragon can either have landed or be up in the air. And I mean, this looks like a pretty interesting setup. So I guess the dragon breath is bringing part of the stability, because especially if you look at the flying variant, it's hard to see how this would work, but I guess they know what they are doing. It's quite cool, for instance. Never seen, I think, such a dynamic dragon in flight in a brick set. I'm not saying that I really particularly like the design, but I do really like the ambition of this design. But also the fiery breath is quite cool, don't get me wrong. I just don't think that flames like this is something that works very well brick built. But nevertheless, quite cool. I've seen setups like these, more like from the wargaming folks, right? When they do dragons and stuff together with lighting, this can look pretty cool. So it's quite interesting that a brick set company is trying to have a design like this as well. There's also a second version of this called the Ice Dragon 33021, and it's a very similar set. It's almost identical, basically different color scheme, basically in blue, white instead of red and black. With that, we're moving on to Mould King, and here I've seen 2 cars. Actually, I think they are not really new on the market, but I have at least seen them for the very first time. They're called IE or Apollo IEs 13155 and 13156. And these 2 cars are basically identical. However, they have a different color scheme, and roughly 1,670 or 1,600. No, both of them are actually identical, even on the piece count side. 1,669 pieces, and they are pretty large, like 47 centimeters in length. That's 18.5 inches, and they have electronics. It's a 1x10 model, and yeah, I'm not really a petrolhead, but I don't know, I like the design. It's quite cool, and I think the question is, of course, with such a, I mean, it doesn't have that many pieces. It's quite large, but not that many pieces. So I guess it's pretty lightweight designed, because there are other Technic sets in this size that have easily twice the piece count. So my guess it's a relatively lightweight design, so it should work well using the remote control. Amazon UK in this case, I don't have an Amazon US price, but UK is asking for 100 quid, and that's 6.7 pence a piece. And like I said, they also have a different version in a slightly different color scheme. The 5.5 is more like an aqua and orange color scheme, and this one here is more like a light blue or sand blue kind of tone. And then we have the blower 13191. Actually, I forgot what I guess. Oh, is this a Bentley? I'm not 100% sure, but anyhow, it is a British car for sure. That was a stud reference for this BMOS. That is actually 3,918 pieces. It's 70 centimeters in length. That's more than 27 inches. This thing is enormous, and still it has remote control included, which is astonishing, to be honest. So I have no idea how well this works. I have built Technic vehicles that are motorized in this size, and in my experience, I mean, the question is, will they use just regular Technic pieces when it comes to the moving parts, or start using carbon or even some metal pieces? As for instance, you can buy this as a retrofit thing, for instance, for CaDA sets. CaDA, for instance, has some metal pieces, and of course, axles almost. You're almost forced to use carbon axles because the plastic ones simply can't do it. But not every manufacturer is doing it. And as a result, this stuff may break pretty fast. But again, I don't know, so I have no idea. But what is definitely interesting, I've never seen a Mould King set with I think chrome at all. For sure not as much chrome as is in here. So that's the big question. How good is the piece quality? So many companies are not very good in doing chrome. I just built recently the Xbox 360 from Mega or Mattel, and the chrome quality was awful. On the other hand, CaDA, for instance, they are doing amazing chrome pieces. The chrome is so thick that it almost feels like a metal piece. It's amazing. So the question is, where does Mould King fall here? And yeah, but like I said, it's an enormous car. Should be a ton of fun to build. question is it also fun to drive around? And then we have again another set where I'm not sure if this is actually a new set, and this may be a bit older, but I have it new in the ZTB. I've picked it up for the very first time last week. 10035. This is a Formula 1 race car. It seems to be a Firas Abu Yaba design again, big partner of Mould King when it comes to design of vehicles. And in Emerson, US, I have a marketplace entry for around $60, 3.7 cents a piece. With that, we're moving on to the Mould King ski resort 10158. So this is an interesting set because I don't really understand it. And let's first talk about a bit about the numbers. 2,181 pieces. Mould King themselves asking for $109, but from other Chinese retailers you can get this already starting from like roughly $86. And this thing is motorized. So my understanding is that the motor can be used to change the angle, like you see here on this picture. And then the ramp itself is also motorized. So I'm not 100% sure what the idea here is. Like, I mean, you have, first of all, they're not on skis, they're more like on sleds. And then I guess the idea is to make them even faster, right? Not just using the angle for them to slide down, but also speed them up using the motor. Not really sure if I understand the set, but nevertheless, if you're into this, then here you go. And with that, we're moving on to TGL. Actually, in this case, their sub-brand Gaomizi, which is part of TGL. Anyhow, a couple of sets here. First of all, the camper van 4108. This thing has 924 pieces. It's roughly minifigure scale, I would argue, and you can buy this in China starting from $30, 3.2 cents a piece. And yeah, it's a minifigure scale camping van. I would say a bit more like North American design, but we have also camper vans like these running around over here in Europe, like with an alcove and everything. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff around, a lot like a barbecue and chairs and a table and stuff like that, an open fire. So a lot of stuff to have fun with. So if you're into camping, then this may be for you. With that, we're moving on to 2106, also from TGL, Notre Dame de Paris. I don't even know how many Notre Dames we have nowadays. Like Wange has one, I think. Lego has now one. And of course, everybody's writing them differently. Baka has this enormous one. So yeah, here you go. BlueBrixx has one. So if you are into this church that is actually reopened, right? I think it was reopened very recently, like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that. Anyhow, they have rebuilt it. And however, if you can't visit Paris anytime soon, then this may be for you. And then they have two pirate ships. This one here is just the pirate ship 2140. I think we can remove the second pirates from the name. That makes no sense. 916 pieces, light brick included, but the design is, I don't know, it's a kit set for sure, but I'm pretty sure there was never a pirate ship in history that looked like this. It looks like, I don't know, like a house that is attached to a ship. But I mean, I guess it's a fun play set for sure, and kids don't need accuracy. And then you have a much bigger, actually, 2,159 pieces, a Flying Dutchman from TGL as well, 2141, so a ghost pirate ship, if you will. And here you go. It's much more, I mean, it's not realistic. It's a ghost ship, and it's, again, very poppy when it comes to colors and everything. But it's a lot bigger than the set we talked about previously. With that, we are done. Like I said, we don't have any reading recommendations this week. I'm a bit behind on reviews and stuff on the site, but we will pick this up as soon as we can. Anyhow, we're moving on to MOCs of the week, and here we have first the Micro Republic Frigate on Felucia by BlueBrixx, 586 pieces only, so this could be one of the smallest sets for this ship or this diorama, as a matter of fact. And I think it's really very well done. I think the goal was to have it in a similar scale than the UCS Venator from last year from Lego. And yeah, it looks pretty cool. Has a I mean, it has like it's like a perfect micro build size wise in reference to the Venator. Really do like this, but I think also the Felucia diorama part is very well done. I mean, of course, Felucia was in Clone Wars, if I remember correctly. I think it was even like first season or maybe second season, if I recall correctly. I think it was like when Ahsoka was not listening and not following orders correctly, and because of that, she had to stay on Coruscant on guard duty, and then she had like fun with Cad Bane and everything. Anyhow, it was of course also seen in episode 3 at the end when Order 66 was executed. There's a ton of MOCs around this planet. It's quite an interesting planet, and flora as for sure. But here you go. This is another interpretation, a pretty small one, but I think it looks pretty neat. With that, we're moving on to a map of Middle-earth in 794 pieces. So, I mean, there's a lot of brick build maps out there, and I guess that 80% is around Middle-earth. I don't know, people just love this thing. But I think this is one of the smallest ones, and I do really like it. It's very colorful, so maybe it's a bit too much color for me personally, but nevertheless, this is how it could look like. It was actually built, as you can see, and there was even something like a light brick or something included, or maybe a BlueBrixx lighting or Light My Bricks, something like that. Looks really, really cool. Personally, I think I still prefer the like more brown tones and not so much color in it, but it looks quite neat, and I really like how the Nexonite shields were used. The Nexonite shield piece was used to represent the water and the ocean. Quite nice. With that, we're moving on to just an example of the very large lineup. I think I talked about this already last week, if I recall correctly. So Gabizon continues to create all these diorama platforms, mill-spaced, if you will, for different sets around winter season. Usually, of course, mostly Winter Village. These two sets that this display has been designed for are actually, or were actually, gift with purchases. So the ice skating ring, it was called, as you can see already, a 2020 set. So these are quite old. However, I think a lot of folks who are into Winter Village, into the Winter Village collection, may have one of these on the shelves. And I think if you have the ice skating ring, it's already enough. The winter snowball fight is like an interesting extension, but of course you don't need all of them. And as you can see, I mean, you can build quite a neat diorama going forward using these platforms. And with that, we're moving on to the E8C Heavy Fighter by Ironmet, 4,391 pieces for this amazing starship design. I mean, it feels a lot like a combination of Mass Effect and Star Citizen. Actually, the author or the designer saying it was inspired by multiple games and series, including Star Wars, Halo, and Star Trek. But yeah, like I said, for me, it has a strong, it feels a bit like the Nominee from Mass Effect, but also has, I think, a strong Star Citizen vibe going on. But yeah, it looks really beautiful. It's an amazing design. However, as far as I can tell, these are all renders. So it is a pretty large ship, and it's quite thin, if you will. Not sure how well this will work, but yeah, I think it's a pretty cool design and would definitely like to try it. However, 4,391 pieces, ooh, that's not a small one. With that, we're moving on to the Stackable Hotel Modular Skyscraper Building by Alolex 1. 2,038 pieces. So I really like this concept. I think I've talked about similar concepts before. The idea is basically you have a starting point, like the first floor or the ground floor is even fully detailed. And then you have a concept of a stackable floors on top, where you can bring in your own ideas, like what you want to put on the interior. And basically you can make this thing like extremely high, right? It could be like, I don't know, 50 inches. Why not? So you can make this thing pretty large and pretty tall, but it's totally up to you. And you can even do this step by step, right? You could start with a relatively small tower like this one here, and then over time, if you have more ideas or simply more budget, you could basically make this thing taller and taller. Quite an interesting concept, and Alolex is only asking for $3 for the instructions. And then we have an 8-star vehicle. aka what Lego calls a speed champion, design by Tom's 8 White. So you already see the account name is the idea. And in this case, it's a 1969 Chevrolet Camaro SS Custom, which is really cool. Very well done, especially the front section I really like because it so much looks like a Camaro. And so yeah, pretty beautiful design. I think if you check out, as always, of course, like I do with the sets, I do the same thing with the MOCs. All the MOCs are linked down below in the video description for YouTube listeners or people who watch this on YouTube, but also in the podcast show notes for all of those of you who listen to this show on the podcast platform of your choice. And just check the account out. There's a ton of cool designs. And of course, the big benefit of these 8-stud vehicles is they don't break the bank because usually they are roughly between 250 and 350 pieces. With that, we're moving on to a pretty neat modular building, if you will, the Community Courtyard by Rebel Neely. This one, of course, is going to cost you a pretty penny, 3,206 pieces. The instructions themselves are okay, I guess, with 1750 euros in this case. But it is a pretty nice building. There's a ton of detail in there. I mean, if you look at it, it's just a modular building, right? And 32 by 32 stud space plate, but it has like a bazillion of different sceneries and rooms in there. You can live in there, you can wash your clothes in there, you can work there. I mean, it's all here. And everything is very detailed. Every floor is tiled. So this is exactly how, in my point of view, a Lego modular building should look like nowadays. This is the kind of detail that I want to see in a modular like this. Especially if you look at the modular from this year, the National Museum. Oh no, Nature. What was it called? Anyhow, you know what I'm talking about, right? The museum. And it was like, it felt like an empty shoebox in many ways. And I think this thing here shows like so many things that mock designers, bring to Rebrickable nowadays when it comes to modulars. This is exactly how it should be nowadays. Anyhow, really beautiful design by Rebel Neely. And then we come to the Great Gatehouse, Castle in Brittany, Part 1 by Brickinger. 14,562 pieces, $25 for the instructions, but I guess $25 is the least of your problems if you want to build this. But yeah, I mean, it's very sturdy, like it really literally feels like a castle element. I guess the design needed also so many pieces because the walls are like really thick, like 2-meter walls, as it should be. This thing is in so many ways up to scale. Which I think is really cool. I'm always a big fan of MOCs like these. However, it's gonna cost you a pretty penny, right? But yeah, I mean, if you're in the market and you want to build a big castle that has a certain realism to it, then this may be for you. Amazing design, really like it. And then we're moving on to a MOC by Lumibricks design, and the designer calls this the Lego Vampire Furniture Full Pack Halloween Medieval D&D Scenery Props. Okay, I guess the point is this is a package, so you can purchase these individually. But yeah, I mean, of course, this thing seems to be seemed for me not so much related to the D&D minifigure series that we recently had, but more to the Fright Night that was in the regular series this week. But of course, you can combine these very well, and it looks amazing. It's beautiful, a beautiful design. We like the color scheme. Of course, it's also presented very well, as Lumibricks design usually does. But I'm actually a big fan. All of these props look really amazing. So this could be a new nice home. I mean, for instance, I don't know, if you're into using the minifigure series, and then maybe you want, for instance, build something like I don't know, Dungeon Master, right? Like your party is coming in, and you're thinking about ways how you can basically kill them using your vampire army and your zombies and skeletons, everything. Then these props, for such a MOC, these props may come in handy. With that, we're moving on to the Battle of Hoth by We100Bricks. So this is kind of a minifigure scale diorama, and I think it's up to scale to a certain degree of the the last AT-AT playset. What was it? The 75288, but there's also the 75268 Snowspeeder in here. So yeah, if you want to have the Battle of Hoth represented, or you're looking for a starting point, of course it's a bit late because the battle pack for the Snowtrooper and also this Rebel in quotes battle pack, it wasn't called like this, but you know what I'm talking about from a couple of years ago, all the stuff that came together with the UCS AT-AT, which is actually going EUL this year, FYI. But I mean, of course, 2-3 years ago, it was quite easy to get a ton of stuff to build a Hoth diorama. So, but nevertheless, if you have all the stuff, or you have an easy way to still purchase it for a reasonable price, for instance, I bought a couple of Snowtroopers, I think last year, and they were still relatively reasonable price-wise. Actually, I want to turn them into Galactic Marines, but nevertheless, I think you should still be able to acquire most of the minifigures needed for this mock. Looks quite cool. With that, we're moving on to the Wolfpack Watchtower by Pantelis Mentos, 1,383 pieces, asking for €7 for the instructions. And yeah, I mean, it's a straightforward, very clean, but very nice Wolfpack tower. And yeah, here you go. I think it's easier nowadays to get Wolfpack minifigures. I think the Wolfpack parts that came with the medieval market are now also available on the Pick-a-Brick service by LEGO. So if you want to join the Wolfpack party, then this may be for you. With that, we're moving on to another alternate build. I think I already reported last week on one for the Starship Collection Millennium Falcon. So this thing seems to be quite versatile because you're seeing so many pretty cool MOCs and pretty authentic MOCs coming from the set. And here what BlueBrixx has done is create an AT-AT even from this starship. And I must say, in this size, I couldn't say or couldn't tell that this is an alternate build. It looks like it is, you know, somebody designed it the way it was meant to be. I mean, there's a couple of pieces like here in the feet that are in tan that you would prefer to see in light bluish gray, something like that. And for sure, I don't know how robust the legs are. This is not a playset, I'm pretty sure, but yeah, it looks quite cool. 535 pieces out of the original set are used, and it's gonna cost you $4. Speaking of a medieval village by LEGO, here you also have from Mikey Briccalotti, you have the Medieval Houses Diorama Part 1, which is quite cool. Looks exciting or sounds exciting. 3,216 pieces for this diorama. Yeah, that has a design that I think should go very well with LEGO's current medieval lineup, if you will. So yeah, just $5 for the instructions. Quite cool. And then as somebody who has just recently built an Endor mock myself, I really like here this Star Wars Episode 6 Battle of Endor Imperial Bunker of Shield Generator, Imperial Bunker off and Shield Generator, I don't know, ATST included, by Brickman Studio, 5,770 pieces, $19 for the instructions. Like I said before, this should be the least of your problems. Really like the bunker. Personally, I would prefer if like the hill after the bunker entry would have been included, or at least started as well. But you have a couple of redwoods in here, the ATST and the bunker entry itself. And the bunker even has an interior, like the command station, if you will, and the generator, you know, with all the fancy lighting going on, which also looks quite cool and quite interesting. With that, we are done with the show. I hope you liked it. For those of you who watch this on YouTube, please leave a like or comment, or better, even subscribe to the channel. But also all of you who listen to this or watch this on any of the other platforms, comment, rate, like, subscribe. It's quite different on any platform, but I will take it all. With that, thanks for listening. See you next week.